So we're in part one, and then we want to allow time for questions and answers, and then at some point we'll take a break, not too long, and then we'll finish it off, certainly with more questions and answers. But complicated grief. You know, we often hear that expression. What is complicated grief, and how do I know if I have it? Well, complicated grief can happen even with the disenfranchised losses that we talk about. And when we get stuck in the grief process, or our grief process goes on too long or stays intense too long, it can often be an indicator that we're suffering from complicated grief. And sometimes complicated grief, it doesn't necessarily mean that the experience we had was extra bad, although it could mean that, that was just extra horrible. But sometimes it just means that it was more complicated. And because it was more complicated, there's certain things we needed to grieve, but we don't know about. There can be certain layers of grief that we missed. And we have no way of knowing that because we don't have the knowledge base for it. It's that simple. We have to know what to look for. We want to be well versed in how to grieve. And, sometimes, let me come up with a cut and dry example. If we grew up in a home that was relatively well-adjusted, carefree, predictable, loving, not perfect, but, no major ruptures with love, safety, or predictability. And, I had this wholesome relationship with my grandmother or grandfather, and God willing, they live to be 110 and they pass away, I'm probably not going to have complicated grief because everything just was on the trajectory that we all hope for, right? But if the person who passed away was a complicated relationship where it wasn't ideal, or that I feel like I never got certain things from them that I needed from that relationship, or that I carried regrets that I never feel like I got to ask forgiveness for, that can lead to complicated grief. Or if there were unhealthy roles, sometimes there can be role reversals in our life. And what I mean is, in the parent-child relationship, sometimes, in an ideal scenario, mom and dad take care of us, right? And until inevitably, maybe because of sickness or because of age, it's going to switch. That's the natural way of things. And then we reciprocate. And then it's time for me to be there for mom and dad. But sometimes that role reversal takes an unnatural path. And what can happen is, if in the case of alcoholism or addiction, sometimes if we have a parent who struggles with that, or we grew up in a home like that, we can end up it becomes role reversal where we're taking care of our parent. Or if mom and dad were fighting all the time, we were like the referee. The kids get thrust in that situation all the time, where, mom and dad aren't acting like normal human beings, and they're turning the house upside down, and suddenly the kids are having to be the protectors. It's role reversal. Mom and dad are supposed to be the protectors, protecting the kids from frightening situations, not inflicting them, right? And if it goes on too long, and that role reversal kicks in, and the kids are the ones trying to break up the fights, putting themselves to bed, having to get themselves off to school in the morning because mom or dad or both are completely incapacitated because of emotion, stress, or alcohol, hangover, whatever it could be. We could go on with many things, and there's that role reversal where we had to take care of mom and dad